Hey there nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and welcome to Season 2 of Meat for the Grinder, our series dedicated to Necromunda Dark Uprising Battle Reports. Meat for the Grinder is a Necromunda campaign set in the final days of Hive Arcos, where Xenos, Chaos, and Order clash for control of a collapsing Hive City. And on today's episode, the children of the Deep Friah, played by my little sister the kiddo of House Cawdor, will seek to rescue hivers from the wretched cannibals of Soylent Green of the Corpse Grinder cults, played by my good friend Dark Lord Mac. So this is the very final game of our very first campaign week, and it's going to also be the first time we're actually using Corpse Grinder cults versus Cawdor in our battle reports. We're looking forward to that as well. Both groups will try to scour the Underhive and either try to rescue or to try to kill hivers to drag back to be eaten later on. So this is going to be a really exciting battle report. Really look forward to actually making this happen as well. And as always, we will put timestamps in the description box down below so that way you can click and navigate to the part of the video that interests you the most. So that being said, let's go and talk about the starting rosters for both of these gangs. So the scenario rules for this one is the meat harvest. So let's go on and talk about exactly what ends up happening on this one. So in this scenario, my friend Dark Lord Mac will be making the attacker in this scenario, while my little sister the kiddo will be the defender in this scenario as well. Pretty much there are 12 unaffiliated gangers who are up on the table. They're basically called hive dwellers, what they're supposed to be doing. And what's going to happen is that the corpse grinders are going to try to attack these guys and to kill them and take them into action, so that way they can harvest their flesh to consume, while my little sister and her Cawdor gang will try to protect them as well. Basically the idea is supposed to be you could do a shooting action or a close combat action against a hive dweller. If you're the attacker, you roll d6. If you're shooting at them on a 5 to a 6, that person's removed from the battlefield. In a close combat attack, it's 3, 4, or a 5, or a 6. And you can remove them from the battlefield as well, and they earn 1 victory point for every person they take out this way. And as for the defenders, they're trying to do is called a shepherding action, which basically take a leadership test within 8 inches, and they move 2d6 inches towards that fighter if they pass that leadership test. And if they get that person within their deployment area and 2 inches of another fighter, they're basically shepherded off the table, and the defender earns 2 victory points for that. Whoever has the most victory points, of course, is the winner of the scenario. Now for the rewards on this one, the attacker earns D3 times 10 credits for each person they manage to take out of action. At the same time, the defender earns D6 times 10 credits for every single hive dweller they manage to guide to safety. Every fighter who participates in the battle report also gets 1 experience point. The winner of the battle report also earns D3 points of reputation, and if either gang bottles out, they lose 1 point of reputation. So now that we're going to talk about the scenario rules, let's go ahead and start talking about deployments and battle plans. So here's an overhead shot of the entirety of the tabletop. As you can see, my friends are playing on a 4x4 table. At the same time, my little sister the kiddo is deployed on the near side of the table, where my friend Dark Lord Mac is deployed on the far side of the table. Now, as for the battle plans on this one, I'm not really sure exactly what my friends' battle plans were, because I was the one taking the photos. I was not participating in this battle report, so you would have to ask them. But for the most part, though, I know that my sister is going to be exploiting the numbers game with her Cawdor gang, and the reason why she has a couple of tactics that allows her to bring extra fighters onto the tabletop, which is really help her out in this battle report. At the same time, my buddy Dark Lord Mac, he's just going to charge these guys forward, have them take as many hive dwellers as possible, so that we can earn as many victory points as well as credits for his gang as possible. So first of all, let's go and talk about deployment for the children of the Deep Friah. So we're going to start with my little sister's gang first. So over here on the left-hand side, as you can see, she's got a little bit of a fire team going on here with all the fighters that she has. First of all, leading this fire team, of course, is Sister Silence, which is a Cawdor firebrand. She's basically armed with mesh armor as well as a gutter forged cloak. She has a great sword as well as a stub gun for a backup weapon. She's also got a photo goggle as well. She's also got the Pious special rule, Righteous Warrior special rule, as well as the Rain of Blow special rule as well. Now, right next to her on the right-hand side in black, that is Erwin the Purge, who's a redemptionist brethren. He's a fighter's armor with flak armor as well as a eviscerator. He's also got a stub gun for a backup weapon as well as photo goggles. He's also got the fanatical skill. And right next on the right hand side with the hoodie going on, I believe that character's name is Mordo is his name. Mordo is a bone picker who's also got twin stub guns. He's also got the fast learner, Pious, as well as the Devout Massive special rule. And right at the front of her, if you notice, there's also three other fighters right in front of Sister Silence. And the reason why is because that is the Apostates tactic card that was played by my little sister, the kiddo. Pretty much when this happens, you get to end up recruiting three Cawdor bone pickers. These guys are either armed with a reclaimed auto pistol, a fighting knife, or a cleaver, depending how you want to do it. And these characters must stay within 6 inches of a friendly House Cawdor champion or leader, because if they're not, they immediately go out of action as well. So my little sister actually managed to bring these three fighters onto the tabletop. She also has another tactic called Unwashed Horde, where basically she can immediately deploy D3 Juvie level fighters who are either armed with a reclaimed auto pistol and a fighting knife as well. We'll talk about those guys here in a little bit when they actually show up on the tabletop. So continuing on my little sister's deployment, up in the front there, that character's name is Malleus. He is a bone picker who's got twin stub guns as well as the fast learner, Pious, and Devout Massive special rule. Right next on the right hand side is Baphomet, who is exactly the same way. Behind them, of course, we have another sister named Dearest Malchus, who is a redemptionist sistren. She's armed with a flak armor as well as a grenade launcher with frag and crack grenade. She's also packing an auto pistol with photo goggles. She's also got the fanatical special rule, and she's also the gang specialist. And right next to her on the right hand side, that character's name is Simeon the Summoner, basically who is a Cawdor. Oh, sorry, not Simeon the Summoner. His name is Adamar. There we go. He's a Cawdor brethren with a flak armor, gutter forged cloak. He's also equipped with a pole armor, blunderbuss with grape and purgation shot, as well as bond delivery rats. He's also got photo goggles, and he's also got the Pious as well as the Devout Massive special rule attached to him as well. So, jumping on the other side of the table, of course, is Dark Lord Mac's deployment for Soylent Green, his Corpse Grinder cult. Right smack dab in the middle, that is Motionless and White. She is a butcher with a butcher's mask. She's got full plate mail armor, as well as parrot heavy chain cleaver. She's also got photo goggles. She has the First of the Fray special rule, as well as the Mentor skill. Right next on the left-hand side, that is the Toe Cutter, who's a Skinner, who's got a Skinner's mask, as well as plate armor. He's got plate mail armor. He's also packing a chain glaive, as well as photo goggles. Got the Berserker skill, as well as the Specialist special rule. And right next to him on the right-hand side, that character is the 8th Harvest Lord, who's a Bounty Hunter Dramatis Personae. He's got Butcher's Mask, Plate Mill Armor, Parrot Heavy Chain Cleavers, as well as a Fighting Knife. He's got a Corpse Grinder Cult Icon, as well as the Avatar of Blood, Killing Blow, as well as Slaughterborn skills. He's also got the Bounty Hunter special rules. And deployed on the top of the table as well is the Crucifier, which is one of Dark Lord Mac's initiates. That guy's armed with the initiate's mask as well as flak armor. He's also got a harpoon launcher. He's got a stun gun with dumbed down rounds as a backup weapon as well as photo goggles. He's also got the infiltrate skill as well. And that pretty much makes up Dark Lord Mac's deployment for this battle report. So that director goes regularly to the top of turn number 1. My friends will all for initiative, and my little sister, the kiddo, will be going first, so House Cawdor will have the priority for turn number 1. So with that being said, let's go and talk about our very first set of activations. Alright, so the very first set of activations that my little sister, the kiddo, decides to go with first is with her champion, Sister Silence, the Cawdor firebrand, who's armed with a great sword. She does a group activation also with Mordo as well, so that way they can actually move out. And the first thing she does, of course, she takes a leadership test directly towards that Underhiver right there on the left-hand side to actually have him move directly towards the deployment zone. So with that, she activates every single Underhiver that's within 8 inches of her. She does pass her leadership test with a 5+ for leadership, which is one of the actual good things about Cawdor Champions. They actually have pretty good leadership scores. So because she was able to use a basic action to shepherd 2 different fighters because they were within range, both those fighters, of course, make 2d6 inches directly towards Mordo. And as you can see right on the right-hand side, Mordo also moves directly towards the deployment area, so that's why he's fully within the deployment area next to the table edge. So that way these 2 guys are shepherded off the table at the same time, also earning 4 victory points for my little sister, the kiddo. And after she's done, of course, she also does another simple action to move Sister Silence up her maximum mood allowance directly next to the little bar sign for the Red Rocket Bar and Grill. Now, if you've noticed, Edwin the Purge is also for it as well. That's because I took this photo after several rounds of activations, just because for the first part of the first turn, my friends were just moving their fighters around. So later on down the line, as you can imagine, my little sister does send Edwin the Purge, does a move action directly forward, heading towards the other Underhivers who are in the center of the table. Meanwhile, Dark Lord Mac decides to activate the Crucifier, who is one of his guys who infiltrated directly on the top of the building, the Oak Ridge building. He does a double action to charge directly into close combat with that Underhiver. He decided to do that because close combat has a better odds of actually harvesting the meat rather than doing a shooting action. She manages to get that guy in close combat. He does charge forward, which means he gets one additional attack as well. The Crucifier is armed with a stub gun, so that increases his attack characteristics from 1 to 2, and he basically just opens up at point blank range, firing that stub gun directly into this poor Underhiver. Not only do the attacks hit and wound as well, he also rolls a d6 to see if he harvested the guy, and just like that, this guy has now been harvested, and his flesh and bones have been added to the stew pot for the Soylent Green cultists, so that way they can dine on human delicacies. Meanwhile, jumping back across to the Cawdor, my little sister decides to activate Adamar, her Cawdor brethren. And the reason why she decides to activate him is because Cawdor brethren actually have better leadership scores than the Redemptionists do. Redemptionist brethren, or sister in this case, have leadership 8+, whereas Adamar as a brother has a 7+ leadership. So with his very first basic action, he basically decides to use the Shepherd skill directly onto the fire to the left-hand side as one of the Hivers, and because it manages to take a leadership test and manage to pass it no problem. The Underhiver goes directly towards the deployment zone right next to Dearest Malchus, and just like that, he also gets Shepherd off the table, earning another 2 victory points from my little sister Shade. She then also took Adamar, had to move up his normal moon allowance, just a normal 5-inch movement, directly forward to take point, hitting directly towards the center of the table. Dark Lord Mac's next activation is to activate Motionless in White, who does a group activation to both the Toe Cutter as well as to the Eightfold Harvest Lord, and basically does double movements for both these guys across the table. As you can see, Motionless in White as well as the Eightfold Harvest Lord do double movements forward directly towards the bottom of the ruins, making their way directly towards the Cawdor fighters. Meanwhile, the Toe Cutter does a move climbing up to the side of the Slime River and going directly on the top of that gangplank, so that we can make his way directly towards those other 2 fighters who are on those bridges spanning the 2 buildings. And by the way, if you notice, that building is the bridge right there is actually a new bridge that was actually built by my buddy Iron Major. He's the guy who makes all the terrain that you see on this series as well as on our channel. And I actually have a video coming out talking about the 3 new bridges that he actually made for our channel to use in our Necromunda Battle Reports. So keep an eye out for that, because that video is coming pretty soon. And as I mentioned before, primarily for most of the turn is just basically dedicated to moving, so we're going to show you just the batch moves that ended up happening. So as you can see here, Edwin the Purge as well as Scissor Silence are joined by the 3 new Bone Breakers they actually brought with them when they actually came up at the beginning of the battle port, playing that tactics card. We're going to bring those 3 Juvies, so those Juvies actually move as quick as they can, moving directly towards the center of the battlefield. And for the last bit of the movement phase as well, Malleus, the Bone Picker, also does a double movement directly towards that other Underhiver beneath the bridge walkway that's middle of the tabletop. And he's also joined by Dearest Malchus as well, who's the sister and is armed with a grenade launcher, as well as the other Bone Picker Baphomet, who basically takes cover position behind that little Jersey barrier, so that way you get any fighters that get Shepherd towards them, they can get Shepherd off the table, and also earn some more victory points for my little sister. And as you can see, that takes directly to the top of the end phase. As you can see, it's overshadowing the entirety of the battlefield. As you can see, the Cawdor, as well as the Corpse Grinders, are slowly making their way towards each other in the center of the tabletop as well. And at the same time, because it is in the end phase, some reinforcements also arrive as well. So let's go and talk about exactly who ended up showing up. So my sister decided to play the Unwashed Horde special tactic, which basically gives the ability to summon up D3 Cawdor Juvi fighters onto the tabletop. These guys are equipped with a reclaimed auto pistol and a fighting knife. So because of that, she decided to play these guys, and these guys have to be deployed on the top of the battlefield, put them right on top of the pipeline that you see right there with that new piece of terrain the Iron Major also created as well. It made this beautiful looking bridge using pipes in order to create that. Once again, we will talk about that structure here a little bit in a future video, so do keep an eye out for that so that way you can see exactly how Iron Major made that awesome piece of terrain. It is absolutely fantastic looking. At the same time, reinforcements also show up. So for the very first reinforcements that show up for the sister, my little sister, as well as the children of the Deep Friah, as Malkarium, who is a Cawdor fire brand. He's armored with the mesh armor as well as a gutter forged cloak. He's packing a heavy cross with frags and cracked shells as well. He's also got a stub gun with photo goggles. He's got the pious as well as righteous warrior special rules, as well as the step aside skill. And my sister managed to draw him out and actually roll the roll off for his deployment. So he ends up in the bottom left hand, middle of the left hand side, so that way he can join with the rest of his gang in the center of the tabletop. For my buddy Dark Lord Mac, though, he was not as luckily for him. Basically, he rolled up for his fighters. He actually got a guy named Molek, which is one of his initiates. That guy's got an initiate mask as well as flak armor. He's got auto pistol with mass stopper rounds as well as a boarding sword. He's also packing frag grenades as well as photo goggles. He has the infiltrate skill as well. But unfortunately for my buddy Dark Lord Mac, when he actually rolled to see if he can actually deploy this guy, he rolled low. So my little sister got to choose for him instead. So because that, she put him all the way to the upper hand corner of the battlefield, far removed away from the action. The rest of the end phase, oddly enough, is actually dedicated to the rest of the underhivers who are scattered across the table, which you usually roll a 2d6 as well as a scatter die to see exactly what direction they travel in. So as you can see here, the guy armed with the shotgun, he actually moves closer towards the Cawdor fighters, which is actually good for my little sister. One of the fighters was actually on top of the pipeline bridge earlier, decides to walk through that gangplank directly towards that tower of shanties that's over there on the left-hand side. The two fighters who are actually stationed on the pylons beneath the pipeline actually scatter as well, one heading towards the Slime River, while the other one also heading directly towards the Slime River in the middle of the table as well. We have another fighter who actually makes her way directly to the right-hand side of the top of the pipeline, far away from those two juvies on the far left-hand side of this bridge. And finally, two underhivers are actually on that little bridge section crossing the Slime River. One goes directly to the top of the ruins, while the other one drops down to ground level as well. And that pretty much makes it the movement for that part. So with the end phase over with, you go directly to the top of turn number 2. My friends roll off for priority to see which of them will be going first. Alright, so that takes directly to the top of turn number 2, and my friend Dark Lord Mag managed to get the initiative on this one, so the Corpse Grinder Cult will be taking the very first turn in turn number 2. So with that being said, the first guy he decides to activate is one of his initiates. So for Dark Lord Mag's very first activation, he activates the Crucifier, who once again does a double action to charge across that plank directly into this other underhivers on the right-hand side of the pipeline. Does manage to get that charge and also goes in with 2 attacks because he also charged, and he lands both his attacks directly against this underhiver. And of course, Dark Lord Mac rolls 2d6, managed to roll 3 for one as well as 4 for another one, managed to take this fighter out of action, and just like that, the Crucifier earned another experience point, at the same time also added another underhiver to the stew pot for the cult to enjoy later on that evening. So for the kiddo's next activation, she decides to activate Adamar, which is one of her brethren, of course, because he's got a better leadership stat than the other Redemptionist does. And he actually targets the Saracen-looking fighter over there on the left-hand side. She rolls her 2d6 and manages to pass her leadership score. That fighter does make his way directly towards Baphomet, and just like that, he's also been shepherded off the table directly onto the Cawdor table deployment edge, and so my little sister earns another 2 victory points of doing so. And she decides to actually keep Adamar exactly where he's located at, just because shortly ahead of them is the 8-4 Halvers Lord as well as Motionless in White, and my little sister does not feel like engaging Corpse Grinder cultists in close combat at this time. Dark Lord Mac then activates the Toe Cutter, which is one of his cutters, is armed with a chain glaive, and declares a double action charge directly on that fighter who's on the other side of the Slime River. And at first, both my little sister and I thought that Dark Lord Mac actually failed his charge because he ended up about 2 inches away from the Pig Killer, which is actually the name of that fighter there on the right-hand side. But then we also forgot, though, that this guy, the Toe Cutter, is also packing a chain glaive, which means he's got a 2-inch versatile attack. So Dark Lord Mac actually managed to open up with a significant number of attacks directly against the Pig Killer, as you can see. The Toe Cutter already automatically comes with 1 attack, but with the charge, he also gets an additional attack on top of that with that 2-inch chain glaive versatile trait. He lands all of his blows against the Pig Killer. Not only does he manage to hit him both times, but also manage to wound him both times, and just like that, that fighter has also been harvested as well, earning another victory point for my buddy Dark Lord Mac, as well as another juicy piece of meat to be thrown into the cannibal stew that this gang will eat later on that evening. So for the kiddo's next activation, she does activate Malkarium, which is one of her Cawdor firebrands, or armed with a heavy crossbow. He does a simple action move up forward, his maximum movement allowance of 5 inches, and a basic action to use a shepherding action directly onto the Noose Taggart, which is the guy who's right in front of all the other fighters, who's the underhiver, to actually make him go directly towards the deployment area. The kiddo does manage to pass a leadership test, so because that Noose Taggart does make his way directly towards the bottom of the table there, where that Cawdor Bone Picker is also waiting for him named Mordo, so that way he can just kind of pick that guy up and then, of course, send him packing across the tabletop, so that way she can get another 2 victory points on top of that. Dark Lord Mac then activates his initiate Molech, who actually show up in the end phase during the reinforcement aspect of the end phase. And he does a move, heading directly along the edge of the tabletop towards those Jersey Barriers, looking like to try to outflank the Cawdor on the other side of the table there. The kiddo then activates one of her juvies that she got by using her Unwashed Master special rules, so that character is going to actually activate and move forward directly to the right-hand side to engage the Crucifier. She moves up in his normal moon allowance, and there's another basic action open fire with his auto gun directly at the Crucifier, but unfortunately for the kiddo, though, she misses her shot with her auto pistol, so no harm, no foul. Meanwhile, Dark Lord Mac does a double action, does another group activation with Motionless and White, as well as the 8-fold Harvest Lord. Both those guys do a move action to climb directly to the top of the bridge. It's directly in the middle of the table. Pretty much what they do is they move it to the right-hand side, climb the wall of the Slime River, then basically jump up to the ledge and pull themselves up is what they decide to do that. And that's how they moved up directly to the top of the bridge. And now they moved up both their moon allowance in order to do so. The kiddo then activates another one of her juvies or one of her bone pickers that she got from the Unwashed Master special rule. He actually does a simple action move of 4 directly towards that walkway, so that way he's within range of that Underhiver, and she decides to take a risk and tries to roll with that bone picker's leadership score, which is a horrible score to actually try to do that. I mean, bone pickers are actually known for their horrible leadership. He's leadership 8, but my sister rolled a 9, so because that, she was able to convince that Underhiver to basically join the masses of the children of the Deep Friah. I think that fighter moves something like 11 inches. He moves up the back up the gangplank directly under the bridge. I think another 5 inches directly towards the edge of the bridge as well, so that we can climb down and join the rest of the Cawdor who are down the ground level. And since the only fighters that haven't been activated yet are the Cawdor fighters, my sister then activates Dearest Malchus, which is the sister in his arm with the grenade launcher. That character also does a move action to go directly on the top of that bridge. That way she has good overwatch with her grenade launchers. That way she can open up on the corpse grinder cultist that actually managed to move directly towards her. My sister then activates Malleus, who actually does, one of her bone pickers, does a basic action, use the shepherding skill, and managed to roll a 10 on that one. Even the horrible 8 leaderships, because of the little electrode-looking fighter who was meet the bridge, starts making his way directly towards the Cawdor deployment, and then from there, she has her juvie move up normal, her moon allowance forward, so that way he can make his way directly towards the corpse grinders. And like I said before, that Electrode Fighter started making his way directly towards Adamar, as well as to Baphomet, who are waiting for him right there on the bottom of the table in the deployment area. My sister decides not to activate Mordo, actually has him stand directly where he's located at because he's perfect to shepherd any kind of fighters and make his way towards him off the tabletop, so she doesn't move him at all, and that takes us directly to the end phase. So that takes really the bottom of turn number 2, and this is what the overhead shot of the entire battlefield looks like at the end of the turn. As you can see, fighters are moving directly towards the center of the table, slowly harvesting or saving fighters as best they can. And now that the end phase is over, of course, we have reinforcements showing up. So Dark Lord Mag managed to win the roll-off for this one and managed to sum up the Fire Verm, which is another initiate who also uses his Infiltrate skill to pop up directly on the left-hand side of the pipeline. Now this guy is extremely terrifying because the Fire Verm actually has an initiate mask. He's also got flak armor as well as a hand flamer and a boning sword. That hand flamer is going to be a nightmare here in a second. He's also got photo goggles that we can see in all visibility conditions, and he's able to show up on the top of the table like that because he has the Infiltrate skill. So because of that, since Dark Lord Mag is in possession of this fighter, manages to use the Infiltrate skill to put him wherever he wants. He manages to put him right on top of that bridge. As for the kiddo, she manages to summon the Hivequake, which is a Cawdor Stig Shambler. That guy's got flak armor as well as a twin-linked heavy stubber. He's also got a pole arm. He's got the Intelligent Control special rule as well as the Move and Shoot special rule. And when it came up for his deployment, unfortunately for my little sister, she did fail a roll-off, so she wasn't able to place him where she wanted to. So Dark Lord Mac actually put the Hivequake all the way in the bottom right-hand corner of the tabletop, as far away from the action as possible. And the rest of the end phase is dedicated to the rest of the fighters who have not been picked up yet by either side. So one of them was a doctor who decides to move directly closer towards the Corpse Grinder cults, because nothing says I want to live like moving closer to a member of the Corpse Grinder cults. As for the other fighter who's directly on top of that walkway there, the right-hand side, she just kind of shovels over like I think 2 inches directly towards the edge of the ruin as well, slowly trying to make her way away from the Fort Hollis Lord as well as from Motionless and White. And that pretty much makes up the end phase on this one. So that being said, we go directly to the top of turn number 3, and both of my friends roll off our priority to see which of them will be going first. So that takes us directly to the top of turn number 3 for both of my friends rolling off for initiative, and my buddy Dark Lord Mag managed to get it once again, so the Corpse Grinder cults will be activating first. And for his very first activation, my buddy Dark Lord Mag decides to activate the Fire Verm. So as you can see, they basically opens up with his hand flamer, manages not only to catch the Underhiver that's right in front of him, but also manages to catch the other two Juvies who are on top, the other two bone pickers who are on the top of the walkway. So all 3 guys get hit with that flamer attack, which is absolutely insane. Unfortunately for the kiddo, disaster does strike. The fighter that was actually, the Underhiver that was right in front of the Fire Verm automatically goes out of action as well. Rolled a 6 when it came to whether to determine whether that guy went out or not. So Dark Lord Mac manages to get another Underhiver and harvests the meat and puts him directly into the stew pot. Although it might be a little charred though from that hand flame that he shot him with. Also managed to take another one of the kiddo's bone pickers out of action, but that's not such a big deal though because that guy was a freebie from a tactical card, so no harm, no foul there. So the Fire Verm does move up his normal movement allowance, heading directly towards the other bone pickers right there in the middle of the table, who is currently pinned as well as a flesh wound. At the same time also has the blaze trait attached to him as well, so things are not looking very good for that fighter at all. So the kiddo activates next, and she decides to activate the Hivequake, as she decides to do. So he's going to take a simple action to climb directly to the top of that shanty to get on the top of the roof. She manages to get him directly on top of the roof, and once she does that, she decides to open fire with her twin-linked heavy stubber. She's able to do so because she has the Move and Shoot special rule attached to this fighter. So she decides to open up with twin barrels blasting from a heavy stubber directly into the Crucifier. The Crucifier also gets hit. Not only does he get hit once, he gets hit 4 different times as well. So he does manage to get hit that way. Finally does get put out of action. I believe it was a flesh wound as well as 2 serious injuries and an out of action roll is what I believe ended up happening for that one. So when the kiddo rolled to see exactly what she did to this guy, the Crucifier suffered a spinal injury. So because of that, he will go into recovery. At the same time, he'll also lose 1 point to his strength, which is kind of sad. But this guy was a huge earner for the gang in this scenario. Managed to take out 2 fighters just by himself. So meanwhile, my friend Dark Lord Mag decides to activate Motionless and White as well as the Eightfold Harvest Lord. Now this is actually a really deadly group to activate because both these guys have things that help them move quickly across the battlefield. For my buddy Dark Lord White, Dark Lord Mac, Motionless and White does have the First the Fray ability, which you can add additional inches to her charge range. At the same time, the Eightfold Harvest Lord also has a Corpse Grinder cult icon, which does exactly the same thing. So both these guys declare charges on 2 different fighters on different sides of the table. As you can see, Motionless and White hits directly towards the Rogue Trader looking fighter on the right hand side, while the Eightfold Harvest Lord goes dive bombing off the bridge onto the wall of the gutter and directly into that doctor then the bottom of the table to actually engage those guys in close combat. And as you can imagine, Motionless and White had no problem putting that Rogue Trader directly out of action, so just like that, another fighter goes down, earning a victory point as well as some more meat for tonight's meal. And the exact same thing happens for the Eightfold Harvest Lord, who manages to harvest another fighter directly into their stew pot for the night. So once again, for the kiddo, she decides to activate Adamar, decides to use a basic action to use a shepherding skill directly onto that tech priest looking fighter that's right there in the middle of the table. The kiddo has been rolling out of the box today when it comes to her leadership test, so because of that, she does manage to pass her leadership test. So that guy is shepherded directly towards Baphomet there in the bottom on the right hand side, and because within 2 inches of that fighter, he also gets shepherded off the table, earning another 2 victory points, as well as some additional credits for the gang. Molech gets activated next for my buddy Dark Lord Mac, who does a basic action aim and another basic action open fire with his auto pistol directly at the Hive Quake, but unfortunately for him though, he missed his shot, so no harm, no foul. And finally, my sister's last activation, she activates Malkarium, which is her Cawdor Firebrand. He actually does a simple action to move up closer directly towards Noose Taggart, does a leadership test, and passes his shepherding basic actions because that Noose Taggart makes his way directly down the bottom of the table, directly towards the waiting arms of Mordo, which is one of the bone pickers who are next to the deployment area. And with that, of course, the very last of the Underhivers actually goes directly into the Cawdor deployment zone, and just like that, it actually is a 6-6 result. The Cawdor managed capturing 6 fighters, earning 12 victory points. One buddy Dark Lord Mac managed to harvest 6 fighters, and also earning another 6 victory points for him. And as weird as it may sound, both of my friends at this time decide to actually call the game at this point before any bloodshed happens between their gangs. Dark Lord Max decides to surrender on this one just because he doesn't feel like he can get enough victory points to actually make it matter, and he doesn't actually want to lose any of his fighters either to the Cawdor shooting attacks. So because he decides to call the game, and just like that, the Cawdor manages to win the game as well, earning 12 victory points by shepherding 6 fighters off the tabletop, while by Dark Lord Mac managing to claim 6 of them. So that being said, we're going to go directly to the after action report because this battle report is now officially over.
Man, game over, man. It's game over.
So the game does end a little bit on an anticlimactic note, I will admit that. I was kind of sad that my friends decided not to fight it out, but they said nah, they were just there to play the objectives real quick, and I really can't blame my friends for kind of chickening out as well. My buddy Dark Lord Mac doesn't want to lose any fighters at the beginning of the campaign because the Cawdor outnumber him in such a significant amount. At the same time, the kid doesn't want to lose any of her fighters either to close combat, so I can understand where they're both coming from in this situation. So now that we're in the post-game, let's go and talk about Dark Lord Mac with Soylent Green of his Corpse Grinder cults. So first of all, let's go and talk about injuries real quick. So the Crucifier did go out of action. He actually suffered a spinal injury, so because he does lose strength to his strength characteristics, and he has only strength 2. It's a good thing that this guy is actually good at shooting with his harpoon launcher as well. So he will go into recovery, and he will miss out on his next game. So from his territories, my buddy Dark Lord Mac managed to recruit a brand new skinner named Griver is his name from his Chaos Fane territory. At the same time, he was also give himself 10 credits from that territory as well. From his Gilder Stronghold, he was able to recruit a new skinner named Kanto the Cleaver. This guy actually came with 25 credits worth of equipment. So he came with his normal equipment, which is his plate mail armor, his skinner's mask, as well as packing a 2-handed axe, as well as a respirator. And at the same time, also managed to generate 10 credits from this stronghold as well. And from his last territory, it is a settlement. He managed to recruit a brand new initiate named Zest the Mucker, who's armed with a Butcher's Cleaver. At the same time, also managed to earn 30 credits from that settlement as well. So in the end, he was able, for the trading post, able to drum up 50 credits from his territories. At the same time, also able to drum up 110 credits from the scenario from harvesting 6 different fighters because he earned D3 times 10 credit for every fighter he managed to get. And then he granted a grand total pool of 160 credits in total. So with those 160 credits, he spent 80 credits on Griever, as you can see here, who's now a Skinner, who's now added to the gang. Basically decided to buy a pair of Butcher's Chain Cleavers for this fighter as well. So just like that, he now has another Skinner in his roster. So for Count of the Cleaver, he actually automatically came free for the gang just because he automatically comes with the Skinner mask as well as his plate mill armor. He also came with a two-handed axe as well as a respirator, so because that he is automatically added to the list as well. So that's another Skinner my buddy Darklord Mac can call upon. As for Zest the Mucker, my friend actually decided to spend 20 credits to purchase an auto pistol with man-stopper rounds for Zest the Mucker. Zest the Mucker automatically comes with Initiate's mask as well as flak armor, and he also comes with additional 25 credits with equipment, which is a Butcher's Cleaver, so he spent 20 credits in order to get flak armor for this character as well. And for like the last 60 credits that he had left, Darklord Mac decided to spend 50 credits to hire a new rogue dog for his gang called the Meat Cutter, so now he has a rogue dog for his gang, and he put the other 10 remaining credits directly into his stash. So in the end, my buddy Darklord Mac was able to earn another point of reputation because it is the beginning of the campaign week as well, so that brings his reputation total to 2. His current record now is at 0 wins as well as 2 losses, and his gang rating now is at 2,320 points. So with that, we go directly to the Children of the Deep Friah, which is a Cawdor game played by my little sister the Kiddo as well. For injuries as well as her advancements, she actually had no injuries from her gang as well as any advances at this point, so we're going to skip that part of the after action report, but we'll talk about her territories. From her territories, from her settlement territory, she's able to drum up 10 credits from that territory, as well as another 90 credits from her thermal vent territory. And for her wasteland territory, she also managed to secure 10 credits from that. And because she actually won the scenario by ushering all those gangers off the table, she actually managed to roll, oddly enough, a habitable territory that she managed to capture. We like to believe that the narrative behind that is that the people that she shepherded off the tabletop decided to build another new area to live in and decided to praise the glory and mercy of the Children of the Deep Friah. So because that she gets that new territory, she also earned 4 extra points of reputation because of that. At the same time, earns another 20 credits for her stash as well. In the end, my sister was able to drum up 130 credits from her territories, as well as another 260 credits from the scenario, managed to save 6 different fighters off the tabletop, each one worth D6 times 10 credits. They gave her 390 credits in total. With those 390 credits in total, she actually spent 210 credits to purchase 6 sets of photo goggles. She bought photo goggles for Levitico Bonestorm, her leader, Sister Silence, partner Gizburn, Adamar, the Lady of Rats, as well as Awen the Purge. She also spent another 60 credits in order to purchase a suspensor from Malkarium, so that way you can actually fire that heavy crossbow as a base action, and she also spent 50 credits to recruit a brand new rogue dog called the Bloodletter. She decided to recruit that for her gang as well, so that way she would have a rogue dog to support her gang in case anybody got any critical injuries. And following, my sister spent another 70 credits to recruit a brand new hanger-on to her gang called Cardinal Ruse, who is a Hive Preacher. Hive Preacher actually had the part of the crew special rule, which means they are able to join up on the gang in the fights. So there's his stats located there. He's also packing a 2-handed hammer. He's got the Inspiration skill. At the same time, he's also got the Sermon skill, which means they can roll D6 and automatically come onto the tabletop with that many faith dice for this gang, which could actually prove really, really useful for my little sister. So that being said, that pretty much makes up her gang list on that one. So in the end, my little sister earned a point of reputation from the campaign week, as well as 4 reputation points from her territories. She also got 2 reputation points from the scenario, giving her a grand total of 8 reputation in total. Her new record now is at 1 win and 0 loss, and her new gang rating now is at 2,435 points. So there you guys have it. That's good for this one for battle report number 5 of our Into Darkness, into our Dark Uprising campaign. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. You guys' input is valuable to us as always. All check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest greatest hobby news related to this channel. That's good for this week, guys. We'll catch you guys next one. Peace out and stay classy.
Oh